Welcome back to another episode of me talking shit about virtually every single character in From. If you so happen to be on for my live earlier, we got cut short. I got through about 20 minutes of the episode, lost power, and I decided that rather than post two videos that end with me getting terrified as someone knocks on my door, that I would just redo the whole thing. I'm going to redo the whole thing for you guys, recap the episode because I have a couple of thoughts that came to me afterwards that I would like to add. And my question that I pitched to you is the Matthews family the worst thing to ever happen to this town? Now that we have this perception that potentially time is on a loop, that whether it's reincarnation, something's going on with time, and it seems like they may always be brought back to this town regardless of which life they live. Every time, do the Matthews show up and just mess things up? That's one thing I'm dying to know. The second thing I'd like to know is what is the actual likelihood that not one person who's traveled to this town has had an animal with them? I realize that not one person brought their dog with them, had a pet with them, and I just don't know how that's possible. Some people were going on road trips like the Matthews, because then I'm like morbid, but like what's happening to the pets back home? So I can't believe no one showed up with that. I was waiting for writers to write something in where somebody sees someone from home. And Leanne was the first person we saw that happen with. But let's see if in future seasons they add the element of somebody showing up with a pet, because at the very least, you have a companion there. So I don't know. I'm personally shocked by that. Getting into the start of the episode, the title of the episode alone, Revelations Chapter 1, lets us know that we are coming to a halt and major shit is about to start happening. In the Bible, Revelation is the series of events that takes place right before Christ returns to take his believers. And before in this period, Revelations, I think he like releases like the 12 seals. Somebody put it in the comments. I'm gonna have to study up, but basically like locust swarms happen, crazy things start to happen, like getting ready for the return of Christ. And I feel like this is alluding to Fatima's baby, the title of this episode, whether it's implying that she's going to be a savior of sorts for the people in the town, which Elgin believes, or whether Fatima's baby is going to be a savior for the creatures in the town and help keep the people there. One thing's for sure, though, despite the back and forth and despite what the what's it called, the ultrasound machine is showing, Fatima is definitely pregnant. So Fatima, I owe you an apology because I thought, I don't know, I'm like maybe she's crazy, like maybe she's just turning evil. I'm sorry, Fatima. I'll give you your one right there. So the episode starts with Boyd and Ellis in the woods searching for Fatima. And Boyd is trying to convince Ellis to turn back around because Fatima has the, what's it called? The talisman with her. And basically it's about to get dark soon. And all of a sudden his leg goes out on him. And when this happens, the first thing that pops in my head is the saying, which is the title of this episode, your blood is my blood. The first thing that pops in my head is that Boyd's symptoms are getting worse. Now, I'm not sure if Boyd is in denial, and that's why he later in this episode brings up Parkinson's, or if that's what he believes is happening, or if that's what's happening. But I feel like Boyd is slowly transitioning into the old man. He's starting to get the symptoms, and as soon as that transformation is complete, he will probably take his place, which is terrifying. And I think he has at least a hunch of this because of his conversation with Kenny, whether he thinks that he won't be around anymore because the Parkinson's makes him deteriorate, or whether he thinks that he's going to be taking his place. He's preparing. So the episode starts with Elgin going to visit Fatima, and he is blaming Fatima for not feeding the baby, which caused it to get scared and attack Tilly because Fatima's feeling immense guilt over this. And Elgin is like, listen, you need to drink my blood. I drained it specifically for you. And once you do, the baby will be stronger. And she doesn't have much options. Okay. So she obliges, and we cut to the next scene, which is Victor, Tabitha, and Sarah in the church. Now, to remind everyone, they are here because Victor wants to retrace his steps and make Jasper tell the secret. Initially, he thought he was in the basement. Then he remembers that he was actually at the church when Jasper talked. So he was there with Tabitha and Sarah trying to get Jasper to talk. But Victor is in a panic because he no longer wants to remember details from before. He's blocked them out for so long. It's too much for him. Too much. And he's feeling a lot of guilt over his mom's death because she tried to save him with the information that the little boy said, which is that it starts with the children. You have to go back to them. And then she went to the lighthouse, etc. Now, as they're in this church, we see the first little inkling of when Tabitha touches Victor's arm and has this vision. And she's like, and Sarah notices, and she's like, what just happened? Shout out to Sarah for at least asking. Did Tabitha tell her? No, of course not. Of course not, because no one tells each other anything in this show. Now, as they could have had some progress, maybe Tabitha would tell Sarah. Kenny walks in and tells Tabitha she needs to go to the clinic because Julie is not well. And this is a reminder, Julie had gone back to those ruins that she previously went to with Randall and took her little brother, Ethan. First of all, Ethan would be like the worst buddy to pair up with to do something important. Second of all, Julie, are you dumb? Like, I genuinely can't with the logic behind, first of all, if something bad happens, what is Ethan going to do for you? Second of all, okay, you're going to put Ethan in this situation. I know she's a teenager, but I'm like, okay, Julie, you're really not giving yourself much protection or redeeming qualities. The entire Matthews family pisses me off. I'm going to be very honest. I think all of them are bad actors. The entire family. I think they're bad actors. So, like I said, Julie took Ethan to those ruins and she felt a pull to walk in them. And when she did, she passed out and she found herself back in the basement watching herself to the wall with Randall and Leanne. Now, it's to be said that she was watching as a third-party observer, as opposed to her going back to that situation and being chained to the wall. She then proceeds to keep walking, and she hears her mother's voice and sees or hears her and Victor walking through the tunnels when they had gone there in search of Jasper. So we can think there's some information here that we can gather that potentially the ruins are a hot spot for either time travel, transportation, maybe something similar to what the faraway tree does or what the bottle tree does. So Julie is talking to Christy and Leanne because they're trying to make sure that she's okay. She's just passed out. And she tells them that she doesn't remember what happened in the dream. And they're like, okay, well, we're going to keep you overnight anyways. And we don't know this at the time, but Jim at that moment knew that Julie was lying. And it's like, wake up, Jim. Thank you. Finally waking up a little bit. So Julie explains to Jim and Tabitha that she was in the woods with Randall before and went back to the ruins. And Jim walks off as she's explaining this to go talk to Randall. And we think that he's doing the overprotective dad bit and about to shut down. Because the thing is that rather than ask questions, what Jim typically does is overreacts and shuts down any chance of figuring out new information. What Jim does in this situation is different. And shout out to the YouTube creator, Moiset. I think he's on his E-Man. He is constantly recapping the From series. He interviews the cast members. He talks a lot about how, in terms of Jim asking the questions and even making the later decision for the Matthews family to all stay together at the clinic or to split up and allow them to join the search party. That never would have happened in the past. We can say that feels, a little eerie. I get suspicious when all of a sudden characters that I hate start to have some sort of redemption arc, but we'll get there. So Jim is going to see Randall. And Randall initially gets defensive when Jim shows up. Mind you, a couple moments before Jim gets there, Randall is stricken with that sound again. He, from times, keeps hearing the sound of these locusts around him. And he's hearing this right seconds before Jim shows up. So first he's getting annoyed with Jim and like, listen, I don't have time for the dick dad bit. Okay, go somewhere else. And Jim's like, no, I want to know what happened. Like, I'm just here to ask questions. And he said, you didn't go back to the ruins. Why? And Randall explains that he felt that the ruins felt wrong to him, and he tried to warn Julie not to go back. And this makes Jim want to know what happened when they were there together, because he's trying to figure out how to repair his family or what he can do for Julie. And Randall's advice is to teach Julie to drive because he can't do anything else in this place. So don't waste your time, teach her to drive. And, Jim's not accepting this, which I don't blame him, to be fair, but teach her to drive. I mean, I don't know. It might be helpful just in terms of you guys have a running vehicle, plow over these suckers. Do we not know that running over them wouldn't do anything? I don't know. So Boyd and Ellis return to the police station because Boyd, like I said, his leg went out while he was searching with Ellis for Fatima. And he walks in with full plans to ring the bell and call a town meeting. And instead, they end up on the conversation of what's wrong with Boyd. And he tells Ellis that he's known what's going on with him for a while. And From does what it loves to do. And immediately right before we hit that conversation where something important could be shared, we go somewhere else. And we see Donna walking around Colony House. And she's basically, I don't know, the housemaster or that's an inappropriate term. I don't know what to call her. She's like the warden. She's like the warden of the house. Okay. She's walking around overlooking everyone. Like, she's the overseer, the meister, whatever she is, the maiden. What do they call the people who are, what do they call it? The female pimps. That's what word I'm looking for. That's what Donna's like. Okay. So she's walking around overlooking anything. Also, we've said earlier in season 1, they initially tried to make Colony House seem like very salacious. Like, I don't know how to describe it, but I initially watched Colony House and thought that it was potentially a cult and that like Donna was potentially the cult leader. But she's walking around overlooking everyone as they get ready to turn in. And it's strange to me that people make the conscious decision to, number one, live in Colony House, because why would you? And then second of all, that people sleep on the first floor by the windows. You couldn't pay me to sleep on the first floor. And granted, the grandma did come in the first season to the second story window, but I would at least have the illusion of feeling safer or knowing that there's people before me that the monsters would probably eat. So that would never happen. As she's walking around, she is having a memory of Fatima's anniversary, which is the exact time when the Matthews arrived. And the one thing this did remind me of is Fatima has been so annoying this season with the distraction from the plot. Okay. I didn't care about her and Ellis's relationship. We don't have time for romance. We're in an apocalypse. People are dying, Kim. Okay. So I never cared about that to begin with. And then she was just, we know that she has something potentially evil inside of her. So she's probably reacting because of what's evil inside of her, killing Tilly, the way that she interrupted Boyd at the meeting, just her general attitude this season, I guess, how she's eating all the rotted food. But it's just been hard for me to find something endearing about Fatima. So I had to remember that her character used to be like pivotal for the series. And she essentially like was the guide that got every newcomer to the town acclimated. So I will say that did take me back for a second because it's been a while. Like I said, she hasn't been very redeeming. Okay. Tabitha and Jim, like I said, they decide to spend the night at the clinic. And Jim apologizes for not supporting Tabitha and basically breaking up any attempts at progress that she's made and not believing her. Because there's several times where he's implied that she was either dreaming or crazy, maybe imagining something. And this feels a lot like how Henry was with Miranda. I think at first he was like, wow, what's happening? And then the next thing you know, she was painting those horrific creatures in his basement and he was supportive. I recommend everybody go watch the show The Devil's Hour on Prime as you wait for next week's episode of From. I think you will enjoy it. It's very similar. It's underrated. And I think a lot of plot points in that show are going to bleed into this. So back at the police station, Boyd is describing to Ellis what happened in the barn with Tan Chan and just how sadistic these creatures are. Because he had to watch all of the horrificness that happened to her. And he then explains that during that time, one of the things that they told him was that they were going to break him. And Boyd's fear is that what's happening to Fatima is to further punish him and try to break him. Now, this is possible because I think the town is taking Boyd's townspeople away from him one by one, as well as just taking the town because the town is changing. Okay, things aren't running the way that they used to. More people have come in. So I think the town is doing things that they know is most important to Boyd to try to break him. So he actually may be onto something there, but Ellis tells him no before they're interrupted by the knock of the creepy nurse outside who's like, "You doing okay in there, Boyd?" Okay, and then she does something creepy. And she does a motion with her hand, and I'm not going to do it because it'll get me banned on YouTube, but I'm not sure if her intention with this was to suggest that Boyd should unalive himself or if she was challenging him to attempt to unalive her. So that kind of confused me, but either way, this pissed him off and Ellis calms him down. Meanwhile, Sarah puts back together the snowman that she's been trying to put together these last 3 seasons that was her brother's or that her brother made for her. And as soon as she finishes, her reward in Fromville fashion is that she starts to hear voices. Like no good deed goes unpunished, okay? So my question to you as viewers is, would it be better if we heard the voices as they heard them, or if things are as they are, where it's implied? I would rather hear them the same way that we hear the locusts when Randall hears them. I think it would make it better. And that's mostly because a lot of people aren't great actors with the implied sound. So I feel like it would take away, it would distract a little. Now, Elgin goes to visit Fatima in the next scene. And I want to point out, no lock was on the door. It wasn't boarded up. She wasn't secure in any way. Now, maybe she has that talisman with her that Boyd says that she has, but there being no lock on the cellar door would make me initially think, okay, whatever's growing inside of her is bad. Because if it wasn't, and if she was potentially going to give birth to something that would save the town, they certainly wouldn't just let her go unharmed. They would shut that shit down real quick, the same way that they let loose the town's livestock on them as the crops were dying. So they would shut that down. So I think that was supposed to tell us something. But Elgin walks in there and gives Fatima a moo-moo, which is supposed to make her situation better. We don't know, but her stomach is huge and pulsating. And Fatima pulls a rusty leg off the bed right before Elgin walks in. And Again, I'm sorry, Fatima, your character just pisses me off. I don't want to victim blame. But really, the hand, okay, the neck, the eye, the ear, the groin, anywhere. Okay. And it's just so frustrating. Like, really, that was the plan. You potentially have Satan inside of you, Rosemary's baby, and that's it. What, the baby didn't get scared then and try to attack Elgin? What happened to Tilly? Where's that? Okay, bring that back. So basically, Elgin fights Fatima off again and puts her back in there. And I'm like, Elgin, do you not understand that this is like traumatic? Like, his character, I'm done. There's so many characters whose storylines I'm done with. Simultaneously, Sarah goes to see Boyd, and and we know that Sarah and Boyd have an understanding because a lot of people in the town, they just still don't like Sarah. They don't like her, they don't trust her, and they don't want her around, including potentially Ellis, who looks unsure when she initially arrives. But Sarah asks if Fatima is okay out of the blue, and Ellis freaks out like a frat boy whose beard just ran out. He freaks out, and Boyd's like, calm down. And Sarah's like, like basically Fatima's close by, and you're not going to find her in time. And they were laughing while they told me this. And okay, points on being transparent, because let's go. The honesty is zero around this place. But whatever Boyd was telling Ellis earlier about Fatima being okay, it's not seeming so. Now, Victor's at Colony House. He stormed out of the church earlier, winds up at Colony House, and he is searching through that house for an axe. And Acosta pisses me off again, because in any situation, like a cop does, she over magnifies and escalates the situation. She's like, Victor, just tell us what you're going to do. You don't even know Victor. Go away. But he's like, I'm going to chop down a tree. You happy? And it's like, we knew immediately what tree in question that was going to be. And not me agreeing with a little boy in white whose intentions we don't know, but I also thought that's probably a really bad idea. Now, I want to give a shout out to the actors who play Victor and Kenny, because I talk a lot of smack about the Matthews family, but the actors who play Victor and Kenny and Boyd, you guys eat it up. Every episode. Boyd goes to see Donna, and Donna has just decided that she's not going to tell the townspeople what Fatima did because of what she meant to everyone, but she meant to me. The amount of times Donna said that, I'm like, we get it, Donna. We get it. You think you're the center of the town. Somehow Donna annoys me too. Does Donna annoy anybody else? Put it in the comments. As Donna's deciding to not tell the town what Fatima did, and we're kind of in a little bit of like a hopeful moment, Boyd's like, Fatima's been taken. And basically he's like, and Sarah said the voices were laughing and we're not going to find her. So every bit of positivity Donna was feeling, but also, good, Donna, good thing you didn't tell them. Otherwise, nobody would help find her. Now, at the diner, Ethan is sitting there with his family, and this pissed me off and shouldn't. He didn't like Bacta's food. Okay, I get it. You miss Tian Chen, but again, another person centering themselves. Kenny misses his mom. Okay, Ethan. People just like, Ethan thinks he has friends with these adults. Like, they tolerate you, Ethan. Ugh. I know he's a little boy, but his character just pisses me off. So Julie tells her parents, this is tacky. Okay, this isn't the vibe. Ethan thinks it's his fault what happened to me. And it's like, no, girl, we all know it's your fault. Okay, we all know what happened to you is your fault only. And bringing him was your fault too. So don't put that in Ethan's head, because now I'm going to stand up for Ethan. You don't know what he's thinking. You don't know what he's thinking. Now, while Julie is bitching out her parents, here comes Boyd, and it's time for the town meeting. Now, Donna and Boyd kind of play the town a little bit because they need the town's help. And for one, they're not going to help if Fatima killed Tilly. For two, they're not going to help if the piece of information came from Sarah. Three, they're not going to help if you don't even ask nicely. Like, I don't know. The townspeople could say no for a host of reasons. So they tell them that Fatima's missing. And when the townspeople question if who took Fatima could be who unalived Tilly, they don't say no. They're like, maybe, even though they know that that's not possible, because the person who unalived Tilly is the person who's missing. They're one and the same. Now, I will say, Acosta in the last episode had a bit of a point about rallying the townspeople behind a common goal, because with nothing to live for and with nothing to work for, it's so monotonous and depressing there. And all you have every night is your fear. So at least y'all have something to do for even the next 2 hours. Now, Boyd gets the group rallied behind the idea. Oh, and he also tells them this: we can take the town back. And then he brings up the talismans again, referencing how far they've come in the town. And that now this is what protect them at night, and they didn't used to have it. So Boyd wants everybody to pair up and cover every inch of the place. Naturally, this means that the two worst partners are going to pair up with each other. Because why? Why wouldn't they, right? So during the search party, Elgin, it's very inappropriate. It's very sadistic to ask Ellis to search with you when you kidnapped her. You have her. You know where she's at. But I guess keep your enemies closer, right? I don't know. So, and let me point out, Julie has two love interests that she's flirting with in this show. One is Randall, who looks like the Joker or the Two-Face from Marvel. And the other is Elgin, who's mysterious, taking pictures, and reminds me of the Riddler. So both of Julie's love options right now in From are kind of giving mysterious. Actually, that's probably the most on par thing. That's probably the most relatable thing in From. She has pretty typical crushes for a teenager. Moody. Continuing on. It's giving Riddler and Two-Face. Well, everyone looks for Fatima. She finds herself a trapdoor. And me personally, I would suspect that that's going to lead nowhere but to where the monster's quarters are. But no less, it's at least worth a try. So Fatima grabs a can somehow, and she uses that to try to bury up the thing and go down the trapdoor. Now, Acosta and Donna walk through the woods, and Acosta wants a rundown of everything that's happened in town. And my problem with her is she's the friend who starts paying attention halfway in a movie or walks in halfway during the movie with strong opinions and entitlement to those opinions. I don't like that character. Or maybe like, let's say you've watched 4 seasons of a show, a friend's over, your partner's over, you watched with them, they have strong opinions and don't like someone that you like. Listen, bitch, you don't know the history. So Acosta comes in with all these strong opinions halfway through, and she wants you to catch her up on what's going on. It's not happening. It's not happening. And it's just like, we don't have time for you. We don't have time for you, Acosta. I'm so sorry. Meanwhile, Boyd wants Kenny to take over his position when things get worse with his Parkinson's or what's happening with the old man. And basically, Kenny is like, I'll be your deputy, but I'm not going to take over as sheriff for you. And I think Kenny is hanging on to his relationship with Boyd. With Kenny's mom gone, with Kenny's dad gone, with Kenny's relationship with Christy kind of severed because she's with Leanne, he basically has not that many people there. So for him to imagine Boyd not being there, I don't think Kenny even wants to go there to make a promise afterwards. So he agrees to be deputy, and that's good enough for now. Now, at Jade's house, which, by the way, where is Jade? Is he in town? Where is this house? Why does it look like Henry's house, sort of? It's odd. Jade's hanging bottles on the tree outside his home on a ladder. And as he gets up there, he sees Christopher and Jasper sitting on his roof. Now, this exasperates him, and he yells at them basically to go away. He's tired of seeing visions. He's tired of this town constantly messing with his mind. And Christopher doesn't say anything, but Jasper does that same scream that we heard him do in the basement again, which causes Jade to fall off the ladder. And as he falls off, up walks Victor's dad, who asks him, "So who are you talking to?" And Jade's like, "Nobody." And Victor's dad's like, No. Who did you think you were talking to?" And I'm like, Victor's dad is so funny. If there's one person who's asking the right questions, it's Victor's dad. So actually, kind of an iconic duo. Also funny that when Boyd instructed everybody to pair up, even though Jade wasn't there, he went out and found him, and he's like, "Yeah, we're gonna pair up. I got to talk to you about Victor." So Victor and Jade begin looking for Fatima, and we'll go back to their conversation because it's actually really, really good what Jade tells Henry. Simultaneously, Victor arrives at the bottle tree with his axe, and he starts a chopping, and up walks a little boy in white who's like, "Stop!" And I can't remember, but I feel like this is the first time we've ever heard the little boy in white yell. Now, Victor wants to know, why can't I destroy the tree? Tell me. And Victor points out that you look different. And the little boy in white's like, "You look different." And it's so interesting that the little boy in white is the same age as Victor, potentially even older, but looks that way. It's like a mind fuck. So the little boy in white points out that everything is changing. And by the way, the little boy in white is not the same person who we had. So it's unclear. Whether it's new casting, I don't know. Did he eat the little boy in white? Is this the evil one? Was there a good one and a bad one? Does he have an evil twin, good twin, bad twin? This really confused me. But he points out that everything is changing. He's like, including me. Ha, I'm different. And Victor's like, is that a good thing or a bad thing? And the little boy in white gives no answer. And I was honestly so pissed off at how petty this little boy in white is. I'm like, are you kidding me? No answers? Because his answer is that he already tried to tell Christopher. He already tried to help Christopher. So now you need to learn for yourselves. Learn for ourselves. Learn for ourselves. So you have a decades-long grudge against Christopher? Sir, my mother is not here anymore. I lost my mother following your whim, your help. So give me something. I would have chased him down. Come here, bitch. Chased him down. So he tells him you need to learn for yourselves and leaves Victor with the parting advice to not chop down that tree. Because Victor's like, listen, if you're my friend, give me something. Give me something. And he says, don't chop down that tree. We don't know if the little boy in white, we don't know if he's good. We don't know if he's bad. We don't know if there's one good one, one bad one. We don't know if they had a budget crisis or if the other kid who played the little boy in white had to get back to school. We don't know what's happening there. But we do know that Jim and Ethan are looking for Fatima. And Jim takes Ethan to the RV that their family crashed in. And I have no idea why he would take him there, because there are a couple of people who go to a couple of spots where just Fatima would never be. And this is one of them. For what reason would Fatima be in your RV? But nonetheless, they go there. And I don't know what it was. The second time I watched it, I didn't feel this way as strongly. But the first time I watched, I kind of thought that Jim was about to sacrifice Ethan. Like, the vibe of the scene was odd. And Jim did a full 180. He did a full 180. Crazy. So I wasn't sure what was happening there. And like I said, Fatima would not be there. So they talk. I don't even know. He's trying to reassure Ethan or something. But as they turn to leave, off goes the radio. And basically, here's Thomas again. You can't leave me alone here. And Ethan looks at the radio. And you know what? This place has jaded Ethan, because he's like, you're right. Let's get the fuck out of here. It's not Thomas. Let's go. And Thomas is like, where are you going? Dad? Dad? I hate everything and everyone in this show. Why were you guys there? Why were you even there? Who is that? And why are you so obsessed with Jim and his children specifically? Now, meanwhile, Julie and Tabitha are looking for Fatima, which brings me to place number 2 of places that she just wouldn't have been. They go to Victor's, what was it, trailer, the truck trailer that he sometimes hides in and hangs out in. She wouldn't be there. That's not where she's going to be. Fatima didn't go anywhere by choice. If any of you think that she just waltzed on out of there on free will, why are they even looking around for her like she just walked out? Like, the search party itself, like, yes, look for her, but she's not anywhere by will. So anywhere that you think like, oh, like maybe she's just hiding here, don't look there. Look somewhere where you would put someone if you were imprisoning them, like the cellar, okay? But instead they check Victor's truck first. While they're here, Julie does come clean and tell Tabitha that she doesn't think she was dreaming the night that she blacked out at the ruins. She feels like she really physically went somewhere, and she was in the chamber with the 3 of them. Then she was in the tunnels, and then she heard the children. Side note, the way that Tabitha says Ankh Hui and everybody else says Ang Hui makes me so mad for no reason. And if it's her accent, I'm not throwing shade, but I don't think it is. I think that her character is like the gatekeeper of Ang Kui, and like is the only one who knows how to say it correctly. And it just bothers me because when the kids say it, it's like Ang Hui, Ang Hui, Ang Hui. And when Tabitha says it, she's like Ang Kui, Ang Kui. No, Tabitha. So that's just one thing that just really bothers me. But she's like, oh, did they say Ang Kui to you? And Julie's like, yeah. And basically she starts to spiral about what happens if I'm ever alone here. And I think that Julie's worried that she was able to be teleported somewhere. And like, what if I get stuck there? And Tabitha tells her, don't worry about that. That'll never happen. And right when that happens, after they hug, Tabitha sees one of the Ang Hui children come up. It's almost like Bloody Mary. If you say her name a few times, here they come. And I do want to point out, whatever happened to these children, I can infer that either they were like burned because they look scorched. It's giving ashy, dusty, maybe charred, even unfortunately, like chalky, or a building collapsed on them. Like it seems like one of the two. I don't know what happened to them. I don't understand. But Tabitha and Julie see the child, and for the first time, Tabitha says she calls them to follow her. So they follow her. Would I? No. And Julie is just mindlessly following her mom because she can't see the child, which is just so crazy that only one person can see what's really going on. So Jade is walking with Henry. This is the part that was important. And Henry's trying to figure out how to fix Victor. And Jade tells Henry, Victor is not broken. Victor is a product of what this place made him. He's been surviving. He's Tarzan in the jungle. And you're the guy who makes him feel like an asshole for not knowing how to use a fork. Amazing analogy. Amazing analogy. Because that's exactly what's happening here. Victor is very much the product of his environment. And Victor has survived, if not thrived here, by staying alive. So any adaptation that Victor has made, anything that Victor thinks will work, has kept him alive. Those instincts have kept him alive since he was as young as a child. And that may make him seem like he's strange to others, but he's processed this way in a way that makes sense to him and has kept him alive. So Jade tells Henry that and then leaves him to go back to the bar and pretend he can be productive. Now, there's been no acknowledgement if there's a correlation between substances and hallucinations. For example, was Randall taking medicine while he hears the delusion? Was Julie smoking? Like, I'm unsure if they're trying to draw some sort of parallel there later on. Now, Elgin and Ellis are walking around, and Elgin is just so creepy the entire time. I mean, Ellis, I hate to say it, but you're an idiot, dude, because you should have known that he had her just by the weird things he was saying. They don't have a friendship. Why would it be normal that he's reassuring you that she's fine or that she's missing for a reason? Like, not missing for a reason. Are you the reason? Is the reason in the room with us? So I'm sorry, Ellis, you should have known. And Elgin hints that maybe the baby will save them. And maybe Fatima's out there doing something to help them. Like what? Giving birth by herself, collecting lumber, building a new talisman, maybe going and searching the tunnels. What do you think that Fatima's doing? Like, listen, Elgin, I'm so sorry, but for that comment, you probably would have gotten tied to a chair and tell me what's going on. Okay? What's happening? Because something's not right there. Something's not right there. And Boyd, if Boyd was walking with Elgin, I feel like he would have known this. And that's why, sorry, Ellis, you're not getting put in charge. That's why Boyd asked Kenny to take over as deputy. Because listen, my guy, as far as instincts and picking up on things and keeping the town safe, you're out. As far as keeping the town fashionable, yeah, sure. Yeah. And artsy, because remember, he had those paintings season 1. Ellis is good at that. You can do that. Now, Julie and Tabitha are following Anghui. And as they're following her, Fatima, downstairs in the cellar, sees Kimono Lady appear over her, and she's motioning at her to stay quiet. And this is so annoying because, like I said, when something can help a character, they snuff it out so quick. And that's why I know that what's happening to Fatima is going to be bad. Because at any chance of Tabitha helping, she covers her mouth. However, what was Victor doing? Because once Tabitha gets in that basement, Victor is standing there in the corner. How did you not hear anything? How did you not hear anything? He was just standing there. He was just standing there. How did this happen? Like, this is such a frustrating show. On Tabitha's way down, she had Raven Vision number 2, and she's remembering something else. And in my opinion, it's because she's done this before. Tons and tons of people think that Tabitha is Eloise, which is completely fair. Go check out my TikTok if you're not following me, Positively Uncensored. Same as my YouTube. I did why I think Tabitha is Miranda versus Eloise. But this is one of the largest explanations, or like one of the largest reasons I think so. Every memory that she's getting are things that Miranda has done, not things Eloise did. It wasn't Eloise who tucked the children in to make sure they were okay in the cellar. Okay? It wasn't Eloise who hugged Victor to make sure that he's okay. No. That would have been Miranda's actions. So it feels like as Tabitha touched the cellar door to go downstairs, she had a memory of herself putting her children there before. And I think that Tabitha is Miranda brought back to From because, well, you made it out once. Whether you die or not, you're coming back. I don't even think it matters how you leave the town, whether you escape like she did and still came back in the ambulance, whether you die, you come back as someone else. I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters. And I think that's why Victor is still there. So obviously Tabitha goes down there, and this is when she hugs Victor, and she gets a flashback of Miranda running through the woods to the faraway tree, to the bottle tree. And as she gets there, Smiley shows up and runs after her and eats her. And as stated, the monsters can run. This fully confirms, and it's never been said like the monsters can't run, but they haven't. They haven't for 3 seasons. But this confirms, as people suspected, they don't run because they don't have to. They're going to get your ass. But if they want to run, they could, which also makes me think if they wanted to get in with the talisman, they would. I'm so sorry. Do they work? Maybe, but everything's up in the air now. So she gets a memory of running through the trees. Now, this is the other thing. Like, it wouldn't be through that perspective if she was Eloise. It seems like she's remembering what happened to her as Miranda, how she went out of this scenario. Now, because we know Tabitha dreamed of this place or potentially was here when she was younger, the last possibility for who Tabitha could be, if she's not Miranda, if she's not Eloise, and if it is going to be a reincarnation plot where everyone gets brought back, she could have been one of the initial children that something happens to with the rest of the Anghui children. Maybe that's why they've picked her. Maybe that's why she remembers being a child. Maybe she was there in that town. We don't know. But I've also thought since day one that Ethan was Victor. I know other people thought that too initially. And I know how could that happen? The timelines are overlapping. As I said, this is sci-fi. Go watch The Devil's Hour on Amazon Prime. It's a 10 out of 10. Way more concise than From. So sorry, From, but The Devil's Hour is fantastic. 6 episodes, 2 seasons. I think there's a lot of overlap here. And I also think that Julie's Eloise. I do. I think Julie is Eloise. And I don't think that Henry is supposed to be here. I think that Tabitha was able to leave. She finally got to that tree, which she wasn't able to do in the past. She was never able to get to the lighthouse or get to the tree. That never happened for her. So this time she did, but it brought her back. And when she was brought back, she was with Henry. And I don't think Henry was supposed to be here because he wasn't initially here. So either Henry or Jim, I don't know. One of them, it's not feeling good for one of those characters. Maybe both of their characters if they're each other. We'll see. We'll see. That's all of my thoughts and feelings. Matthews family, I still maintain that you're the woat. I'm sorry. I can't name a more frustrating family on television that I've seen than the Matthews family. I think that they actually take the cake for me. Just a reminder, if you haven't already, like this video, subscribe to my channel, come back For next week's recap, it'll be the final episode. I can't wait to dive into everything. Thank you for joining me. I hope you have a great rest of your evening. And put in the comments what your predictions are. No spoilers. Don't be that person. Bye.